Hello and welcome to tonight's show. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show will begin in 5 minutes. Let's make some noise! Let's make some noise!
Let's do this!
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey. How are you doing, Ritchie?
I'm all right. It's so good to be back. We're very short break. So um, happy to be back with everyone in the audience and with you, Natalie, and glad that so many could just stay put for a little bit and come to show number 2.
Yes. Let us know if you already watched the previous episode or if you just tuned in new to the day. We've already been chatting nicely in the comments during the pre-roll here. And we're all warmed up and raring to go. I'm super excited for this episode because we're doing something, a little bit different and, unconventional. Because
Yep.
we thought we are going to join the buzz that's out there talking about AI and chat GPT with photography. So, so it's great to have you here. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and if you're here again. And like some of you, the weekend's already started, and Dan is here from New York, who's struggling to keep up with the
Hey,
work.
Dan.
Yeah.
That's funny.
uh,
Well, it's Friday, so work productivity should be kind of slowing down anyway.
yes, it's very overrated. Sorry, not sorry.
Oh,
I'm glad that you're excited, Edward. Yes, we are
this
too.
is going to be fun.
Yeah, yeah. It is. We've got something special in store for you. And Enrico is in his dining room. Well, that's fantastic.
Are you eating dinner? Are you eating what are you eating for dinner? That's what I want to know.
Yes, good question. And yeah, Bo is already enjoying the weekend. He's
Mm-hmm.
right. I'm glad that we timed this so nicely for our live stream.
Yep.
So, let's kick back, relax, and let's have some fun. And 68 is back again as well. Thank you so much for joining. It's great to have you all here. It's really cool.
Yes.
Yeah. And now that we're all oiled, we've got all the gremlins sorted out, we should be just, hitting it off nicely. And let's start off by a little bit of trivia. So we want to know what you think is considered the most advanced AI out there at the moment. It's maybe a bit tricky because I think as far as AI is concerned, like things are changing so fast, so quickly all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to keep up to date with everything. But what do you think? Do you have any idea what kind of AI is out there and what's the most advanced and why? That's quite a detailed question.
Yeah. I mean, my guess would be something that the government, of some country has, whether it be United States or China or Russia or England or some country. There's some country out there, the government has developed some sort of AI that is far more advanced. And I just saw in the news today that here in America, they did some simulator test with some new AI that they have for drones. And in their simulator test, the drone did a drone strike against the drone operator because it was interfering with the mission. So that sounds very scary.
Okay, machines are okay. Yeah,
So that's where we've come to. That's where we've come to with AI.
This is stuff that the stuff that movies are made of.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, Enrico's got a guess. He says the one that's not advertised. Okay, yeah, you got a point there. Yeah, I don't know. There are so many different systems out there. It's pretty crazy, actually. So yeah, but yeah, hit us up with the guesses if you've got any ideas as to what it could possibly be, and let us know. And yeah, there's no prizes to be won for this one. There's no prizes in the show, in this theme show today. But we're just having some lighthearted fun. So don't think too much about it if you have any idea. If not, we will reveal the answer shortly. Well, if there is an answer, if it's even, still relevant. And there's David. Hello, David. Long time no see. Greetings back to the Sherwood Forest. I hope things are going great there. It's nice to have you with us. It's always good to see familiar faces. Here's our answer, or one of the answer. We're looking at OpenAI GPT. So yeah, I'm sure that's debatable. Like I said, I think it's changing so fast, and there's also so much that's not even out in the open. But ChatGPT is capable of generating human-like text and can understand normal language, so you can have a proper conversation that seems to be pretty advanced.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I've used it a few times, and yeah, it's interesting. It's very crazy what it can do and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, and it reminds me of when Siri first came out in a I don't know when it was in an iteration that it became actually really useful, and you have all these questions that are out there that you can ask Siri, and it gives you these weird answers, like when you say what 0 divided by 0 or something like this. And answers.
And it talks about Cookie Monster not having any cookies and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, when I was chatting with ChatGPT earlier today, I asked it how it, if it's in good form, because it needs to be on top form performing tonight. Kind of like said, well, I'm here for you. Happy to help. So let's see.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of like what we are going to talk about today. We will be,
since everybody's talking about it. I mean, that's the reason that we're here. It's the thing that on YouTube channels, on internet articles, websites, just people having face-to-face conversations and all that stuff. Everybody's talking about AI and the different things in ChatGPT and all that stuff. So we thought, well, let's talk about the elephant in the room and just have a discussion about it here with all of you in the audience. So I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that this is fun and educational and everything for you, and that we can all learn something together.
Yes, exactly. It may be a little bit of a stretch for some, because we kind of like, I think, going often in the other direction, since we are more at analog and film and getting away from computers. But keeping up to speed with developments, what's out there, I think it is a really good idea to at least have an inkling. So, we've got you. We're keeping you up to speed with the latest and want to share that with you. But hit us up within the comments what you think about it in general. So yeah, let's jump right in and let's look at what we want to talk about today. So in our normal fashion, we are going to check out what there is to talk about in general about Chat. Then we will link it to the recipes, that we want you to shoot with. We have a challenge for you. And then there's a little bit of time for questions at the end of the show, as always. So first up, we had a bit of a look, like over the last couple of weeks and months. Like we said, people have been talking about what AI is, what's in store, what the latest developments are, what their experiences are. So we'll have a quiz at that. We've also tried it ourselves, so we will look a little bit more at that. And then we will, pull ChatGPT in right live into the show to, do a bit of work for us right here. And then I think it will be a lot of food for thought. So we can have a bit of a conversation around that. Right after that. Alrighty-o. So what's out there? Who is talking about what? We have lots of different software, and I think I've learned there's hundreds of them. I don't know what kind of numbers you have and what you've come across, but
I think a lot of them are based off of like some of the same tech. Like you might have 10 apps or 20 apps or something like that, but they're all based off of one technology. So but I think these ones here are all kind of where those things are linked to, or what technology they're using.
Yeah, and I think a bit more mainstream, if you can call AI mainstream at the moment. But you've got DALL-E that creates images from text prompts. You've got Adobe Firefly that's, I think most of these are still in a beta kind of a version that creates images for you. And then something that is probably a lot been talked about and been around for quite some time is Midjourney, that also creates a lot of images. Again, also from text prompts mostly. Some of these, you can add your own images to it and then make it add things or change things. I don't know if you've played around with it a little bit, Ritchie?
I not Midjourney, just the DALL-E. Okay. And it was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, I've played a little bit with Midjourney, and I was like, I have no idea how these guys get the results that they're showing off. But that's clearly not where my strengths lie.
Yeah.
What I found quite interesting was the latest release of Photoshop and the generative AI fill that they've added. And that's been making quite a few waves. And
I saw an article on Petapixel about like who owns the copyright to the part of the image that the AI generated, and it's not necessarily the person who generated it. So that's going to be an interesting discussion going forward over the next few years. There's probably court cases and everything.
Yeah, I'm sure that there will be lots of stuff happening in the near future, and a lot of things will be changing and shaping how and what we can use, and it'll be interesting to keep an eye out on all of that. Lastly, what we want to focus a little bit more about is Chat GPT, and we will bring that back in a little bit later to have a look, see what kind of a conversation we can have with it.
Yeah, because this is the one that's useful to us as far as potentially making film simulation recipes and such.
Yes, exactly. So that's the first round of what we wanted to share with you. And we also thought it might be quite useful to have a look at what other people are talking about. So there's quite a few videos. I think YouTube is full of AI at the moment. But there were some that we thought were quite interesting, entertaining, or, informative to watch.
Yeah. And these are ones that we've seen ourselves and can testify that they're good. And I believe we have links for them if you want to check them out later.
Yes, exactly. So it starts off with an entertaining video from Casey Neistat, something more controversial from the Tin House. The Northrop's have released multiple videos about it, and Sean Tucker has talked about the rise of AI and how it's affecting photography. The Art of Photography is also giving their thoughts. These are just some that we thought were really interesting. And like Ritchie said, the links will be in the comment section. This particular video here that's on the Frames channel, I thought was really interesting because it's a conversation between the guy who was awarded the Sony Photo Awards this year and refused because he declared that his image was not a photograph. And it's a really interesting conversation between him and someone who is in the analog photography. So yeah, so go watch it. It's really interesting, very informative.
After the show, don't tune out now and go on. After the show, check out all these videos. You have the weekend.
Yes. So yeah, so stay informed and stay abreast as to what's happening, even though it may not affect you directly. But we have also played around with it a little bit. We don't know if you have. If so, let us know. We are very curious to hear what you guys are thinking about it. But first off the bat was Ritchie, who gave it a go, and he made a video about it. In case you haven't seen it, we are going to have a look-see and watch it now. And then afterwards, you can share some more thoughts and experiences of what you found with us.
So what I noticed right away here is that it chose Velvia instead of Classic Chrome, which is an odd choice because Classic Chrome has those Kodak colors and Velvia doesn't. It's also missing white balance shift. It's missing grain and grain size. It's missing color chrome effect and color chrome effect blue. And it's also missing clarity and noise reduction. So those are all things that you need in a film simulation recipe for the X-T5, but it didn't include. So I'm going to ask it to make those settings for me. Okay, I think we have everything we need for the recipe. So I guess the next thing is that we load this into the Fujifilm X-T5 and see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm also going to put in here my Kodachrome 2 film simulation recipe, which is intended to mimic the same emulsion that I asked the AI to create a recipe for. Okay, let's take some pictures. Skyline Park is near where I live. The desert blooms with pops of color in the spring, an ideal opportunity to try these recipes on my camera. Kodak made Kodachrome between 1935 and 2009. Kodachrome X was in the second generation of the film, sold between 1962 and 1973. The rich, true-to-life colors of Kodachrome are iconic. ChatGPT has come a long ways since it was first launched, but it's not quite there yet for being a useful tool for photographers trying to create film simulation recipes for their Fujifilm cameras. It doesn't understand what all of the camera settings do and which ones are required for each model. It also doesn't do well at analyzing image aesthetics for certain film stocks and correlating that to Fujifilm settings. It'll get there though, just give it some time. So what do you guys think? Did ChatGPT do a good job making this film simulation recipe? Does it look good? Let me know in the comments.
Yeah, so the recipe that ChatGPT eventually made after I give it some extra prompts to fill in the blanks that it didn't fill in doesn't resemble what it was intended to resemble. To me, it ended up looking a lot more like different Kodak film that came much later called Ektachrome E100 VS, and but not 1960s era Kodachrome. So it doesn't, like I said in the video, it doesn't really correlate well. What it's trying to do is find a description of the film and then trying to find descriptions of the Fujifilm settings and trying to figure out how those might correlate with each other, and it really doesn't do a good job of that. So as far as trying to make it look like a film, it's trying to take a guess at it based on the limited knowledge, if you call it knowledge, that it has, what it's learned. And of course, the reason that I specifically said Kodachrome X is I knew I didn't have a recipe that was called Kodachrome X, called Kodachrome 2, but it's supposed to be the same emulsion. But I wanted to see how much it was going to copy what is already out there, because it like, how does it know what the different looks are? It has no eyes, it can't see. So my assumption is that it's copying from other websites, what other people, that's where it learned from, is what's out there on the internet, and it's taking those. So I wanted to give it that kind of challenge of basically copying a recipe but not giving it the same exact name. So it was an interesting experiment, and I would love to know what you guys think. You saw the video. I asked the question, did it do a good job? What do you guys think of how the ChatGPT did trying to make a Kodachrome recipe? I'd love to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments of this video how it did.
I wanted to know from you, Ritchie. So you shot with exactly the settings that it eventually gave you.
Yeah.
These are the images that we will be seeing later as well. We're going back to the settings. So it's exactly, so there's no more tweaking afterwards. I know that you wrote a blog post about that as well, where I think you adjusted it somewhat.
Yes. So there's a recipe called Kodak Ektachrome E100 VS version 1, which is exactly 100% as the AI eventually made it, right? And then I looked at that and said, well, it's very similar to Ektachrome E100 VS, but can I get it a little bit closer by adjusting settings a little bit more? And so I compared it to some slides I have shot with the actual film and made some tweaks, and that's called Kodak Ektachrome E100 VS version 2.
Okay. So people can get more decent, if you wish, that resembles the film simulation a little bit more if you after that.
Yeah, to be a little more accurate to the film that I think it looks most close to.
Yes. Nice. Great. Well, thank you very much for that. I think that was very insightful and sparks a very good conversation and some more experimenting. Since
Mhm.
I jumped on the bandwagon and did something similar. I didn't create a fancy video like Ritchie did,
Mhm.
but I wanted to share this with you. So I prompted it and I asked it if it could make something that's similar to Coda Gold 200. And I got a similar answer like Ritchie did. You know, a few settings that kind of seem like, oh, okay, they're covering something. And then you look closer and like, hold on a second. There's no white balance and this, that, and the other, all sorts of settings missing. Which, then I also went and I prompted it again. Um,
Mhm.
I, I talk to it like a person. I'm trying to entertain myself while doing that. So then it spat out quite a few additional settings. But still, it left out some. So I asked it again. So, and I realized, oh, I need to ask it a couple more questions and a couple more questions, similar to, I think, Richie, what your experience has been.
Yeah, so it'll leave out settings, and it very rarely goes outside of +or -2 on anything, and you really have to give it, for the most part, you have to give it prompts to even consider like +3 or -4 or anything like that. It'll stay within +or -2 on pretty much all the settings all the time.
Yeah. And because we kind of like had a couple of conversations around this and I, already knew that, I like kept prodding and prodding to give me,
Hmm.
you know, like color outside your lines a little bit more, ChatGPT. And then eventually, I pushed it to give me all these settings, and you will see that there's, you know, a bit more drastic numbers. But that, I really needed to push and push and push to give me those. And and so I got these, and my idea was to create something that looks like a Kodak Gold 200, just because. And then I went and
Hmm.
I took a photograph, and so this is what it created. And at first, you may think, oh, well, yeah, it's quite warm and whatever. So maybe it could be. But I then compared it to your Kodak Gold 200 to get, to get the reference. And it actually looks more like this. So a lot less, um, a lot less sharp, a lot more warm and soft in general. If you want to have a look at the comparison. So not really anything like it. So the Kodak Gold 200, as far as I'm concerned, is a lot more analog feel than the vibrant gold.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, but why am I trying to recreate a recipe that already exists? That's just me trying to see what it would come up with and compare it with, what it should be. But a person who would use ChatGPT would probably go about it in a different way. So I thought, well, maybe there is a use case for it. And then I reformulated my prompt. And I, coming from like the unknown space, basically, I thought, okay, let me describe what kind of image look I'm wanting. I mean, I don't know what this would resemble in a film stock or anything like that. So maybe it can just make a look for me.
Yeah.
And and I told it must also give me a name for it, and these were the settings it came up with. And then I again shot a picture with it, and this is what it looks like. So it's supposed to be a desaturated analog looking kind of film image,
Mhm.
which I don't think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, a lot of times I think like if it does look good, it's more by chance than anything else. Like we did in the last holiday special,
Yes.
we by random chance doing a lot of different fun little games and stuff. We uh, very much by chance made a film simulation recipe live,
Mm.
and by chance it actually looked all right in certain situations. So I think a lot of times with the chat GPT recipes, it's like a roll of the dice. You could get sevens, or I guess could roll seven, or you could roll ones, or something like that, snake eyes or something. You
Yeah.
don't know if it's going to be good or bad.
Yes. And what I noticed also, it's like it sounds like it knows what it's talking about. It gives you all
Hmm.
great, pointers, and then ends off with, oh, and make sure that you save these settings in your camera, that you always have them handy and whatever.
Hmm.
So it's like, oh, thank you so much for this advice. It's really cool. And you think, oh, I made something that's nice, but you obviously have no reference until you actually put it in your camera and you take the picture, because it can't generate
Hmm.
this.
Yeah,
And
and ChatGPT has no idea what it's going to look like. It doesn't know
yeah,
what classic Chrome looks like. It doesn't know what Color Plus 2 looks like. It just has a description of it, and
mm,
it's going off of that.
yes. And then, you create an image and then you think, oh, you're shooting images that look like film, and they really don't. So, so yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Hmm.
But I think it's time to put it to the test properly. We
Yep.
thought, no time like the present. Let's put our money
Hmm.
where our mouth is, and let's, you know, apparently my chat GPT is in good form today and it's ready to rock and roll. Let's see. We're going to try and create a recipe live right here, right now. And what we're going to do is that Richie and I will both have the same prompt that we give it. And we run it side by side and then see what it gives us back. And then we'll see, if any useful information in there and if we can end up with a recipe.
And this is uncharted territory. Nobody's ever made a Chat GPT recipe live on YouTube before. This is a world's first. So let's. I'm gonna
Yeah.
put in my
And we both
prompt. I had
the
a.
same prompt exactly.
Mhm. Okay, so you let me know when you're ready. We can count down if you'd like.
Yes, and I think
You
I think
ready?
yeah,
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
go. All right.
Oh, mine's a little quicker.
Yes. So much for mine being ready.
Oh, mine give more words
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Okay, so and I don't know if you guys caught what we asked it to make a film simulation recipe for. We said, make me a film simulation recipe for my Fujifilm X Pro 3 camera that gives me those nice bright colors, those greens of summer, and makes you think all the world's a sunny day, which is a reference to Paul Simon and Kodachrome. So let's see what.
Wow.
So do you want to talk about yours first? What kind of
Yeah.
answers you got? For you, it says Velvia, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just says Velvia and it gives me very few settings, just
Uh
color,
huh.
highlight, shadows, sharpness, and noise reduction. Yeah. And just basically
And
describes Velvia, that is vibrant. So it's just picking up on the vibrant greens and
mm-hmm.
colors, um, and adding a touch of sharpness will bring out details.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, and it keeps on. I've seen this a lot. It keeps on saying, remember that different lighting conditions and scene may require slight
mhm.
adjustment. And feel
so
free to customize. And happy shooting, it says.
so for mine, It's kind of interesting. It gives classic chrome, which I guess if you're going for Kodachrome, that would be very logical. And I don't know if it picked up on the Paul Simon reference or not. But the funny thing is, this is dynamic range DR400, or if it's a high contrast scene, try DR200, which is like the opposite of what it should be. Like you would think it would be DR200, and if it's a high contrast scene, you do DR400. But it has those backwards. It doesn't understand what the difference between DR400 and DR200 are. Highlight tone +1, shadow tone +2. Okay, those starting to sound like maybe the Kodachrome 2 recipe on Fuji X Weekly. So color +1, sharpness +1. And so it's making me think on those settings that it did cross-reference to Fuji X Weekly, and it's kind of copying it without giving any sort of credit. You notice that it's definitely missing some settings. We don't have grain. We don't have white balance shift, color chrome effect, color chrome effect blue. I think that's what it's missing, unless I'm missing something here. I think those are the things it's missing. So I'm going to ask it to create those settings for me and see what it comes up with.
Yeah, I think you've got a lot more going for your recipe. I think, my chat GPT oversold itself by saying it's in good form, and it thinks it's done with that. So I think since we are trying to create one recipe that we'll work with, we'll stick with your version.
Okay.
I think, and we've proven a point here. What we've been trying to show you is that you ask it exactly the same thing from different accounts, and it will give you different results, which in itself is already a bit worrisome if you think, well, if 2 + 2 is 4, it should be 4 every time, no matter who asks. And this is
it's if it's coming up with drastically different answers each time, like how do you know which one to trust?
Yeah. And I mean, even in your settings, I mean, it also gives you like a color +1 or adjust to your liking. It's
I don't know what happened here. It didn't generate anything for me. We'll try it again.
Yeah. So now you're asking it to fill in the settings that it didn't provide you with.
Maybe I asked it to do too much at once.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is we've prepared, to create this recipe, we've prepared a page on the Fuji X Weekly app to put in all the settings that we can share with you guys a little bit later. And just now I'm going to hop on over to do that for you. But let's just see.
Yeah, I think it's getting shy here. So let's. Oh, there it goes. I guess I didn't scroll down. My mistake. So let's see.
Okay.
I just didn't realize I had to scroll down. Okay. So let's see what it did. So grain effect strong, grain size large, which is, I guess, interesting. Color chrome effect strong, color chrome effect blue strong, clarity +1. It just says shift towards warm for the white balance shift. Of course, that's not a thing. That's not an actual setting that is available in your Fujifilm camera. So what red and blue. Let's see. And I guess I gotta scroll down once it's done. It's not gonna automatically do it like I previously thought it would. Let's see. Let's come down here. So So if you want to do warmer tones, yeah, it's being wishy-washy. So I think at some point here we're just going to have to pick our own because it's being wishy-washy with it. It's saying +1 or +2 or -1 or -2. Let's see. And you see we're having to do, it is not even wanting to decide. And so what you can see here is that, you have to understand what the settings are in the camera yourself to know what it's missing. And then you have to press it more and press it more to get it to give you what it needs. And then even then it's throwing it up in the air and saying, well, you flip a coin, So I guess we'll do +2. Why don't we do +2 red, since it's not giving us anything. Is that okay? You okay with that, Natalie? Since it's,
I'm totally fine with that.
yeah, and I guess we could do the same for blue, because it's going to give me the same answer. I assume it's going to give me the same answer. Like, you decide.
Yeah.
Maybe if I do it like that. Maybe if I tell it, if I demand it to. So it's saying -1. It's saying -1. Maybe I should do that for the red. I'll do it for the red, as to just force it to choose. Okay. Let's see what it's saying here. So it's chose +2 red and it chose -1 blue is what it chose, after kind of forcing it to do it. And then did you get all the rest of the settings here?
Not at all.
Okay, so I'll bring it back to here.
Yeah.
Classic Chrome, DR 400, highlight +1, shadow +2, color +1, sharpness +1, noise reduction -1. That's a curious choice. Grain strong large, color chrome effect strong, color chrome effect blue strong, clarity +1, auto white balance +2 red, -1 blue.
Okay, highlight +1. Shadow 2. So I've got a bit of a different sequence here.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I didn't give it in the right order, so.
Color +1.
+1.
Sharpening +1.
And this will give us those Paul Simon Kodachrome colors, apparently. If
You reckon?
we put it into our cameras, it'll do all that, supposedly, according to OpenAI. So
I've saved this.
should I ask it to make a name? Should I ask it to name the recipe? And
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's see what it says. Well, let's see what it comes up with. Vivid summer glow.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, but now it changed it. But now I don't know if you noticed this. It made some changes when I said that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that? Now it's saying +1 red. We're going to leave it at +2. And now it's saying color chrome effect blue, weak to moderate. So apparently there's a moderate setting. But before it was saying strong, right? That's what it gave before.
Yeah.
So it changed its mind we're gonna keep it how it was. We're not gonna change that, and we're not gonna tell you to pick color chrome effect blue moderate, which obviously doesn't exist.
Because we're not mean like that.
We're not mean like that. So
Yeah.
there you go. And so you can see even in one chat, it's changing its mind. It's being very wishy-washy with the answer that it's given. And so it makes you wonder, like, how can you trust it? Vivid Summer Glow. There you go.
Okay, Vivid Summer Glow it is. And we're leaving the settings as we had them. So let me just go here. And that's it. All right, so I'm going to quickly shoot this one over to put this in production.
Yep.
So that we can add it to the presentation and give to you quickly.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to try this, but if you're somebody who doesn't understand the settings on your camera very well, you're not going to know that it's missing settings until you go to program them in, and then you're like, well, what do I do with this one, or what do I do with that one? And then you might start to realize, okay, it's missing some things. And then when you go to prompt it to give you those things, you don't know if what you're going to get is even an option on your camera. Yeah. Or if it's going to just change its mind or give you like kind of a wishy-washy answer, like, oh, you choose, you go either way. You could go plus or minus 2. And of course, we pointed out earlier that it doesn't like to go beyond plus or minus 2. And you see that it stayed within that on this recipe. It never said plus 3 or minus 4 or anything like that in any of the settings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. It kind of like just says, here are some numbers, but actually, you need to fine tune them.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of a frustrating process if you are familiar with the camera settings and you know what you're doing. I can see how somebody, because I've actually seen this before, and I don't want to point out anybody, but I've seen like a YouTube video where somebody made, ChatGPT camera settings, and they were clearly missing a number of settings, but and some of the settings just didn't make any sense, but they put it out there anyways and said they shot with it somehow. So, and I'm not sure exactly how that ended up working out. Those details were left out, but
so that's cringe moments for you when you see that, Ritchie.
For me, like, I see it, and maybe somebody else sees it and is like, "Wow, it's amazing."
Yeah,
but I see it, and I'm like, "Oh, like."
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's our recipe, our Vivid Summer Glow.
And I've
for those Paul Simon colors. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've just a note to the technical team. I've added the asset now in our offline depository, so we can add it into the presentation.
Oh. Yeah, so this is all live. We couldn't do this ahead of time. Yes. This is all fresh and new to us. So now we have to. There's something later where we're actually going to revisit Vivid Summer Glow, and and so we needed this for later.
Yes, it's not the last you heard of it.
Yep, and so let us know what you guys think. Like, how do you think the process went using ChatGPT? How did you think it handled it? What prompts should we have done differently, even, like, or how could we have done it differently? Do you think this will be a good recipe? Do you think it's just copying other people's work and not providing any credit to them? Yeah, whatever you guys think, let us know in the comments, and we'll come back to that in a little bit.
Yeah, so it's really interesting that you say that at least in the beginning you thought it was resembling Kodachrome 2 quite a bit. Do you still think so now that you have all the settings?
Well, there's a number of settings that are similar to Kodachrome 2. and it's not going to look exactly the same, but it's got I don't know, maybe 80%, 75% similarity
Okay.
if you were to compare. So it's going to render differently because of the white balance shift, probably more than anything. But and then the grain is different. But is it by chance? Is it just by chance a roll of the dice that it happens to be that similar, or is it that similar because it is just basically copying the work of other people?
Do you remember if on your blog post where you published that recipe, you made a reference to this Paul Simon quote?
Probably, yeah, probably so.
Okay. That's interesting. Sorry, just a second.
But interestingly enough, on yours with the same exact prompt, it gave completely different settings.
Yes. Sorry, I just quickly need to go back in here for a moment. I'll be back with you in a second.
Yeah, if I didn't do that quote on that particular recipe, which I can probably look that up pretty quick, then it was on an article that references that recipe. I know for sure. Let me see what I find. Just, I know, watching me scroll on my phone probably isn't the most interesting thing I've ever done live. But yeah, I guess I didn't say it in the article itself, but I do know in a separate article where I mention the recipe, I also do mention the Paul Simon song I quoted.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a bit of a problem here for a moment. Sorry, Ritchie.
Okay. No, that's all right. Yeah, it's just
Abandoned.
I guess for those in the audience, we did a different prompt in our prep, and that was kind of interesting. Kind of similar. It was a completely different prompt. We didn't want to do the same one, but we did the same prompt as each other, and once again, it came out with different results. And also, once again, it came out with settings that didn't exist on Fujifilm cameras. So it's very hit or miss on whether you actually get something that's usable, something that's good, and almost always it takes asking for more information. You don't get it on the first try. It takes a second or third or fourth try to actually get all of the details you need for a film simulation recipe. And we have it worked out. This is the thing when you're doing stuff live. There's always some technical trouble of some sort. We're on two different continents, and doing this live, and of course, you guys are all over the world that are tuning in. And it's pretty amazing that this is such a worldwide thing. But as far as the technical aspect of the show is just two different continents, and that kind of thing. There's always room for the gremlins to sneak in and something to go wrong and all that stuff. And
Yes, exactly.
and Natalie just disappeared, and so she'll be back shortly, and hopefully we can get this worked out. And definitely interesting to try this if you've never done it yourself. It's worth trying. Just my opinion is that it's not going to, not yet anyway, replace film simulation recipes like in the app. What I do and what other people do, because it is so inconsistent and it's so unpredictable what you're going to get. But I think at some point, you have to believe that the technology will improve, the technology will advance, and AI will actually be able to analyze a photo very carefully, and then it'll also know, it'll have an analyst of exactly what the Fujifilm settings do to a picture, and then it'll be able to come up with something that's a pretty close match. And I don't know if this is something that's a year away, 10 years away, but I do think that the technology will eventually get to that point.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the development is really quick and drastic. I mean, there are people
Yeah.
out there who've been testing different kinds of softwares at the beginning of the year, and they're testing them again now, and there's a huge difference in
Yeah.
in
And
the
it's gotta move beyond just analyzing descriptions of things.
mm,
It's gotta actually be able to analyze the image itself.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so it's interesting. So sorry about this. There was something the computer wasn't doing because of the screen sharing, but we are almost there.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think that was really interesting. It as up to this point, it didn't really do anything that we didn't expect it to do.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
maybe you guys expected it to be different, and especially maybe if you never used it before. So we definitely would love to hear your thoughts. Is did it work the way you expected it to work, or were you surprised by how the results and how it all flowed and everything?
yeah,
Definitely let us know.
yeah. So so far so good. What I really enjoyed is that it even gave a setting that doesn't exist. It doesn't always do
Hmm.
that. Nice to see.
No, but
So
it sometimes does. I've seen it before a few times.
yeah. It once gave me for film simulation gave gave me a Fujicolor Pro 400H.
Oh, that would be nice. Maybe that's upcoming for Fujifilm. Maybe that's the next film simulation that they're gonna include in their whatever their next upcoming camera is. That'd be pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. Um,
Okay.
but uh, for now, without spilling the beans too much, we will talk about this a little bit later in the show again. But
Hmm.
you kind of like need to know what it is that you're seeing in the results. I mean, for you, you can kind of judge, Ritchie,
Yeah,
what
I have a
the
lot of experience, so I understand what +1 color is going to do on classic chrome, or +2 shadow, what that's going to look like. I have a pretty good idea in my mind because I've seen it so much. But obviously, ChatGPT has never seen a Fujifilm picture, and so it has no idea. It has no idea what that looks like, and it can only go by descriptions. Like somebody said that the classic chrome film simulation looks like this, and so it can take that description and analyze it and compare it to the description of some emulsion and try and match it. But that's all it can do.
mm, yeah, exactly. So yeah, but anyway, I think we are ready. I think we're ready.
Ready to move on to the next slide,
Almost.
next part of the show? Almost. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we want to give you the proper experience of, you know, getting um, the challenge done properly that we have in the show, and for that we just need to tidy up uh, parts in the presentation so that we can.
Okay.
But uh,
Yeah, I guess we didn't realize we were going to have to chat so long about this particular section. I don't
yeah,
know what more we can add. But if you guys notice the screen by Natalie, the one on the left, that is in the Fuji X Weekly app. There is a blank recipe card that you can add pictures to, fill out. It's freeform text, and if you make up your own recipe, you can add that into your app. It stays local on your device.
Yes, it's very useful, extremely handy, especially for this particular case. And what I noticed, though, I mean, I don't use it very often because
Mhm.
I tend to use it only during the show when we make recipes, since I don't.
Mhm.
But it doesn't have the section to add some notes, I guess, because you kind
Yeah.
of make your own notes already with your own recipe.
Yeah. So, there's been a couple requests for that, and that is something that we probably could do in the future. For the moment, it's all freeform text, and so you could just find a blank field. For example, in this one, you see toning doesn't have anything in it, and you could type in whatever notes you wanted to into that field, just as a way to get around it in the meantime.
All right. Okay. So we could here at the bottom also where it says exposure compensation, like as the
Yeah,
last, you can then use it and you can have something. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
good.
Excellent.
I
Yeah.
wonder what it would say if we did ask it what, since we're here waiting, what
Yeah.
what do you think it should do for our exposure compensation?
Yeah. It's still here. Let's ask it.
I wonder. I've never actually asked it this question, so I have no idea what it might say. Uh,
It's being very political about that.
it is. It's just saying 0 to plus 2/3. Is basically what it's. Um, but
Well,
remember to pay attention to the histogram. It says okay, and that's
it's
a good point. That the
very
exposure compensation that we do include is just merely a starting point. It's not a hard and fast rule, and each picture should be judged individually.
yeah. Well, it knows clipping. So as far as the lingo is concerned, it's using the right words, and it's yeah, that's what I find so interesting. The way it writes, you would think, oh, you actually really know what it's talking about. All right, yay, here we are. Thank you so much, um, yeah, for this. So here we have it. Vivid Summer Glow.
Yeah.
Um,
Does it have all the settings in there? I think clarity is missing from the list, but
okay. But we will provide uh, we will provide the recipe. So I'm wondering, would you be able to add this?
oh, what is it?
Would you be able to add it? Okay, I think I know what the problem is. Would you be able to add this recipe to the app? Or
Oh,
is
right
it,
now?
no, no, not right now.
Oh, oh, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't. I I would. I would hate to do it if it looks really bad, But,
Yeah.
uh,
So I
but
make
but
sure
we
that
can
yeah,
type it out and we can put it somewhere where everybody can see it, and you could take, and the audience, you guys in the audience, you could take a screenshot right now, and you see it there on the left hand side. I guess, Natalie, if you just scroll down a little bit so we can see it's classic Chrome as the film simulation. Um, but it's all right there. If you take a screenshot, you'll be able to see it, and then we'll put it somewhere in writing, somewhere, and so you can visually see it. We'll come back to this in just a moment, and it'll be a part of our challenge. So,
yeah,
um, anyways, this is your opportunity to take a screenshot, and you can see all the
yeah,
settings.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
this was clearly a little bit more complex than we anticipated because of a number of reasons. But anyway,
Mhm. Oh,
there
there
we
we go.
go.
Take a screenshot of this. I think
Yes,
everything's in there.
yes, that's it. Perfect. Um, yeah, so
Okay.
that's the
So
one.
there's our live made chat GPT recipe for
Right.
Fujifilm, the newer X Trans 4 cameras.
Yes.
X Pro 3, X100V, XT4, XS10, XE4, and XT32 cameras. If you have an X-Trans 5 camera, I would recommend changing the color chrome effect blue to weak, and it should look the same.
Oh, moderate.
Or moderate if your camera happens to have moderate. I don't know of any that do, but
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for waiting. This is, yeah, one of the recipes that we will be using. But before we jump there, we have a few more, even more food for thought. Um, to that is a spin-off from using it and kind of what we raised already. But before we go back to ChatGPT, I just thought I'll make a quick detour because I think we're pretty familiar with Photoshop, and a lot of us may use it from time to time. And it had a tremendous update also with generative AI fill, and I played around with it a little bit. So I had taken this image in Urban Dreams, and the story goes that I was in a place here and didn't know any better. I was just there in the morning to take some photographs, and a lady was there. She was like standing there with wrapped a blanket around her and was looking at the river with intent and whatever. And eventually she saw me with my camera and she said, "Oh, are you also here for the submarine?" I'm like, I don't know anything about a submarine. And she said, "Yeah, there's a submarine that's coming down the river on a big tanker, whatever. And it's going to a museum where it's being fixed up. And it's a big thing. It came from very far away. And this whole transport costs a lot of money and so forth." I did not know. And I wanted to wait for it. And I was waiting for a while and this boat didn't come. And then unfortunately I had to leave and I never saw the submarine. But inspired from that story, I thought, okay, well, what would have happened if I'd seen a submarine? So I took this picture and I took it into Photoshop and I, had a bit of fun. And so this is what I ended up with.
so there it is.
So I clearly didn't stop with a submarine, did I?
No.
And yeah, I never played any war games either. But what I did notice is that on top of the clock there, I actually wanted to put a soldier looking through his binoculars, but it wouldn't let me. So apparently soldiers are against the guidelines. So
Oh, okay.
you can't construct any war scenes, which I guess is nice. And the most vicious dog it could give me was also this little guy there at the bottom. I actually want, a really fierce military looking dog, but they don't have those either. But anyway, so that was just a little bit of fun, and it's just the power of AI in more an image kind of a driven way as opposed to text prompts. But I guess apart from the original image being Urban Dreams, it doesn't have anything to do with anything that we are talking about this evening.
Well, it's about authenticity, and this is getting into our food for thought here, is that when you load a film simulation recipe into your camera, you go out and you take pictures and you have those straight out of camera JPEGs, there's really not much more authentic than that. I mean, that is the pinnacle of authenticity in a lot of ways. And people are drawn to that, not just photographers, but when you go to somebody and you show them your picture and they say, "Oh yeah, how much was that photoshopped?" And you say, "None, this is straight out of camera. I took this is exactly how it looked in the camera. I didn't edit this at all." And they're blown away, right? So people are drawn to authenticity. They want something that's real, something that's not manipulated, and film simulation recipes help with that.
Yeah. And I find that so interesting that in a time when authenticity is so very important and, false news is, really hated amongst a lot of us, that there is a rise for something that is on the opposite end of the scale. I find that,
Mhm.
yeah, really, really interesting to come to grips with
Yeah.
how we are so drawn to this. I mean, to create an image where you just add things that really kind of like look like they were really there, but they aren't, was fun
Hmm.
once. But I mean, there's really no need for me to do that. There are photographers out there who use it. I mean, I don't think any landscape photographer would use it to add any submarines in a river.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of, especially conceptual photographers, who use it, and it saves them money, and it is still creating
Hmm.
and adding to their art. So there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it, and I'm not here to undermine what's being developed. I
Yeah.
just, with some things, I just wonder, especially in our context, how much use we will have for it, where we are trying
Yeah.
to get away from computers, and we want to have our images feel more analog and authentic.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
So we have here some questions that we thought of, and maybe you guys have had these in the back of your head. Maybe you haven't thought of them at all, but we thought we would kind of put them out there as things to think about. And we're not trying to answer the questions, but we want to just have the thought to put some thought into it and just have it rattle around in our brains for a little bit. And the first one here is ChatGPT always has an answer, but can we really rely on the results of that answer?
yeah.
Um, so no matter what you put in the chat GPT, it always will spit out something,
Mm.
but is it something that has any value?
Yeah. And the question is, what do you enjoy the process? I mean, if you
Hmm.
kind of know what kind of settings you would go for, you wouldn't really need to ask ChatGPT. So this is, your scenario, Richie. And if you
Yeah.
don't know, and if you don't know about the process because you're new to the whole topic itself, would you know what to do with the settings, and would you be happy with the result?
Yeah.
And so, and we speak about this often, this hands-on experience of taking the photo,
Hmm.
of creating something in the field. And I think, the recipe as such is also something like that. So it's interesting. And yeah, so I guess we can, include this as part of your your sort of challenge, just a bit of, thoughts to give you along the way and think about over the next couple of weeks. And, when we come back at the end of the month to discuss that a little bit more, and questions
Yeah.
that you have, or maybe some answers to some questions and thoughts, would be really interesting to discuss, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think we can leave it there for now,
Yep.
and move on with, our full selection of recipes that we have put together for you, that will form part of the challenge for this month.
Hmm.
So yeah, so Richie, you have created, we've watched the video where you created the Kodak Ektachrome E100 VS version 1 already.
Yep.
You also created another recipe afterwards, I think.
No, it was before actually. The first one was Urban Dreams, and that's the name that Chat GPT gave it. That's why it's called that. Um, that's kind of a weird name. But anyway, that's a different recipe that I had asked it to create when I was first trying it, seeing what it could do, what it couldn't do. I was playing around with it, and I thought that recipe was at least okay. So made an article about it and put the recipe in the app. And then later we did the video with trying to get it to actually. So the first one I wasn't trying to get it to mimic a specific film stock. The second one was actually trying to get it to mimic a certain film stock, and that ended up becoming the Kodak Ektachrome E100 VSV1. And then Natalie used it to create the soft blue classic recipe. And then just in the show today, we did live the vivid summer glow.
we have very flowery names for our recipes.
Yeah. So those are the 4 recipes. They are all 4 AI Chat GPT generated, and those are our recipes of the month to try.
Yes. And we've got some sample images to, get
Mhm.
back to looking at some pictures and not just numbers. So we've started out by looking at urban dreams. So
Mhm.
one of your sample images.
Yeah. So this is a little town called Bisbee, Arizona. It was a boom town in the late 1800s, early 1900s, with mining, but then the mining mostly dried up, and it's an interesting place. A lot of ghost stories and stuff. But this is the Urban Dreams film simulation recipe.
Yes. And I think it's doing a pretty good job. I do
Hmm.
like this recipe. And I've created this with this. I went out and did some street photography last weekend where I used this. So I
In
quite
an
like.
actual urban environment.
Yes. I thought let me take it to its roots.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I quite enjoy it, I must say. And then there's another one
Yep.
which I've
Yeah,
put.
this is just driving along the highway. It's getting to be like blue hour, and you can see the graininess of it, and I think that's pretty cool.
It's got some.
Yeah, so that's all it is.
uh, and then another urban shot,
Hmm.
like in Europe, so something a little bit different, where I also shot it because I did enjoy it. Nice colors and everything. And then on the other side, something a lot more bright.
Yeah, and as you can see, this doesn't resemble like 1960s era Kodachrome in the slightest. It's
Yes.
much too vibrant, and but but for Ektachrome E100 VS, it's not that far off. So that's what I thought was
Mm,
interesting.
yeah, it's nice. I do wonder though what a Hoffy is.
Oh, I think it's a hot dog of some sort. I don't know. I think that's what it is. They were selling hot dogs.
Okay. Nice. I'm hungry now.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is very vibrant. So especially with the greens also, it really brings them across quite bright.
And for those who don't know, Ektachrome E100 VS was Kodak's best attempt at Velvia. Fujifilm had the Velvia film that was super vibrant. Ektachrome E100 VS was a super vibrant film as well. Not quite as vibrant as Velvia, and it was warmer.
Mm.
But that's the history behind the film. I think it was around for about 10 years or so.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely vibrant.
Yeah. So if you're trying to get those colors to pop, that's a recipe to try.
Yeah. Yes. Although sometimes it's still popping, I guess. Yeah, this was a super overcast day.
Mm.
And then we have soft blue classic.
Yep.
This is your sample. I think it's in this particular image, it's pretty decent actually. I think.
Yeah. If it's particularly warm and contrasty, it kind of tones that back a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, I guess it's good for that. If it's a drab day like this was, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. But soft blue,
Mm.
it
Yeah.
is.
It is soft and blue.
Yeah. I don't know about classic, but well, it'll be interesting for you to figure out if you can make it work for yourself. Maybe you enjoy it, maybe not. We'll see. But these are the recipes, the 3 that we could make sample images for. So Urban Dreams is the first one, and
Yeah,
like
it has some resemblance to Kodachrome 200 film. It's not intended to replicate that, and it's not an exact match to that, but it's probably the closest film simulation recipe to Kodachrome 200 for those looking for that.
yeah, and it
It's got good
is.
versatility, you know.
It definitely delivers nice results in different scenarios. But then again, Kodak Ektachrome E100 VS, like we already said, it's very vibrant.
And
And
so it's not going to be great for skin tones, you know, if you're doing portraits of people, you know, it's going to be a little wild for that.
yeah, and then we've got Soft Blue Classic. I think we still need to see where it performs the nicest. But it's definitely desaturated. And if you have, like Ritchie said, a super bright day with lots of contrast, then that might be a nice recipe to use. But if you're already looking at a drab scene, it'll not create anything very exciting. And then we have Vivid Summer Glow, and we will see what it does.
And so the first 2 recipes, Urban Dreams and Kodak Ektachrome E100 VS V1, it's on the Fuji X Weekly website. It's in the Fuji X Weekly app. Soft Blue Classic and the one that we just made today are not in there. And so we'll get those typed out somewhere. If you guys didn't take a screenshot, you can either go back and find it in the show and take a screenshot, or we'll type it out somewhere so you guys can see it written down.
Yes, and we will definitely include it also on the sooc.live website, where you will find the challenge and all the recipes, and we'll make sure that you have all the settings you need to test it out.
Yeah.
So just to recap, those are the 4 recipes, and we would love for you to shoot with them and see what you get. So this brings us to the challenge. As always, the first step would be that you actually shoot with all the recipes and see how you like them in whichever scenario you feel like. And then we would love for you to test the recipe that we created today, since no one's shot with it yet. What you get and how you like it, and if you like it.
You could be the first.
Yes, the very first go.
Whoever's the quickest to put in their camera and take a picture, that you're the first to use it.
Yeah, and then if you feel adventurous, grab yourself a good ChatGPT browser and ask it yourself. Maybe you get something that you like, get an experience of how it talks to you and what it creates for you, and shoot with it. And if you want to share those kinds of experiences with us, obviously we will need a little bit more feedback from you. But you can use the same upload that we have in the show for everything, and just make a folder, and then you can add, for example, a Word or some kind of a text document in it that you send us some feedback, or you can send us an email or something. But if you want to share that experience, then just make sure that you send us a few more documents that we can then share the feedback in the upcoming show. We would love to hear that from you. So and that's where we're at.
Yeah, definitely when you upload the pictures that you capture, just as a reminder to put the name of the recipe into the name of the file, so that we can know exactly what it is. And I guess if you go and use your own ChatGPT recipe that you ask it to create for the 3rd challenge, I guess you could just put ChatGPT as the recipe, or my own ChatGPT or something, just to let us know that it was a recipe that you had ChatGPT make custom for you.
Yes.
Just something to make it clear. And otherwise, for the other 3 or the other 4 recipes, put the name of the recipe into the file name so that way we can know
Yes.
what you shot with.
Because when we use those images in the slideshow in particular, we always want to name the recipe that it was shot with.
Mhm.
And that is the easiest way for us to know that. But you can even send us, documents in that folder if you want to share the recipe in case you made one with us.
Yeah.
And here's the link and the QR code. So make sure that you, for example, screenshot it. But we also always have the links in the description of the show. You have until the 27th of June to send us all the images that you create. And yeah, remember to put the recipe name in the file. And that is that from us for this today, this show. Here's your challenge, a bow. So you were looking for it in the previous show. Here you have it. We hope you're up for something a little bit different and try to experiment alongside whatever else that it is that you're shooting and creating. Oh, Enrico
That's awesome.
is the recipe. That's
Mhm.
great. In sunny Italy, I'm sure, with lots of vibrant colors. I'm sure it'll
That's great.
doing nicely. And there's Bo. He is asking whether we think that AI and SOC are mutually exclusive. That is a very interesting question.
I think they're kind of opposites in a lot of ways. I don't know if I would say that they're mutually exclusive, but I think AI to the extreme is the opposite, is the antithesis of authenticity. And I think straight out of camera JPEGs is an example, one example of being very authentic with photography. It's not the only path, and I'm not even suggesting that is the absolute best path. I think it is, but other people might disagree, and that's fine. But I think that they're kind of opposites. They're one sits on one side and one sits on the other.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities for the two to cross paths, I guess. And I'm not saying it's wrong if they do. So just I guess the lot of things to think about.
Yeah. And who knows where it's going? I mean, this is
Yeah.
only the beginning, so we will see what the future brings, and maybe
Hmm.
other engines. It was in sunny Sweden. Oh, so Enrico, you
Yeah.
used the recipe in Sweden. Well, sunny wherever you were. That's great to hear that you enjoyed the recipe. Okay, so Edward is saying it should also be compared to an actual photo that's taken with Kodak Gold 200 film. I think he's referring to my experiment earlier.
Hmm.
Yes, you could
Yeah.
absolutely.
Interestingly enough, it was probably a couple months ago. Somebody shared with me some scans that they had gotten with they actually shot some Kodak Gold 200 and used the Kodak Gold 200 recipe and shot them side by side and shared with me the results.
Mhm.
And it was interesting how close they actually were on many of the pictures, not all the pictures. And of course, film can look very different depending on how it's shot, developed, scanned, and all that stuff. It can vary quite a bit, but it was pretty interesting that they were fairly close on many of the exposures.
Nice. That's great. That's an interesting, maybe an interesting parting comment from Carl. He's saying, when you're good at something, ChatGPT is worse. When you're bad at something, ChatGPT is better.
I
Okay,
like that. I really do like that.
yeah. Yes, yeah, that's really good.
No.
I like that. Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Carl.
yeah. So maybe we should close off with that. And
Hmm.
then there are more questions, and then there's Bo, who's got a question that says, "Someone whose newest sensor is an X-Trans 3, asking for a friend." Hint, hint.
Yeah. So I think especially like the soft blue classic, is that's what it's called.
Yeah.
I think if you ignore clarity, because clarity is not very high. I think it was like +1, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And if you ignore the grain size and the color chrome effects were off, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I didn't use it very much, so I don't remember. I
Yeah.
think that recipe, all you really have to ignore then is the grain size and the clarity, which was only +1, which is barely even noticeable. I think it should be compatible with X-Trans 3 and should render pretty similarly.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion.
Yes. Soft blue classic it is, Bo. Yes. Okay, great. I'm glad you're looking forward to try these. I think, yeah, we all are. We hope we've given you lots of food for thought to think about. And we can't wait to hear some more questions and you to talk about it a little bit more and in detail. So, yeah, so make sure that you use these next couple of weeks. And then we will see you guys again soon. And not only soon, but exactly on the 29th of June. Thursday, we are trying to hop back on our normal schedule for this year. And that is the first and last Thursday of every month. Yeah, so we will see you then. And for now, it is goodbye from us. I think we have,
Goodbye again.
we've done our dues for today. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, like, and share away. It will definitely help us and hope to grow this channel and the community. So, yeah, so thanks for sticking with us and for being so keen on the comments. It's great to see and to connect with all of you. It's been absolutely fantastic to spend so much time with you today, Ritchie. It's always very exciting. And yeah, and now we are going to go about our own merry ways. Time to say goodbye.
Well, goodbye, Natalie. It's been great. Goodbye, everybody out there who tuned in today, and for this show and the previous show that we did earlier. And it's been a marathon kind of day, and now it's time to say goodbye so we can get on with our weekend.
Yes.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, the marathon is complete. Thanks for tuning in and being a part of it.
Yes, thank you everyone for watching. It's been absolutely phenomenal. We will see you guys at the end of the month. Until then, shoot lots of awesome JPEGs and stay well, healthy, and we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye now.
Good night, and thank you for watching. We hope you enjoy the show.